What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for joining us tonight for another exciting show. So, tonight's topic is when one spouse is not pulling their weight in the relationship. What do you do? What happens? What's next? Well, we're here to tell you. So, you've found the right place to get this question answered. So, this may be common in a lot of relationships, I would say. You so often at times you may feel as if someone's not pulling in their weight, of course, not bringing enough to the table from what you all had basically agreed to in the past, but now it's showing. You're stressed out, you're frustrated, you're upset, mad, angry, and can't figure out how to solve this problem. So what do? You listen to us tonight, and we'll give you a blueprint to help you through this issue. So shall we begin?
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. This is a cool topic inspired by a very simple question. What to do when your spouse ain't pulling their weight in the relationship? So it was quite easy to come up with a topic and a whole, show about this because we haven't, talked about this. We kind of talked about I guess household chores and like responsibilities in a way, and that nature, and that will certainly fall under the example of what that looks like. But not pulling your weight in the relationship could really look like a whole bunch of different things. So I guess first we can kind of go over that, what that looks like in different forms. First, identify, bring awareness. We always talk about that. Awareness creates the opportunity for change. So we always want to bring first awareness. And then, of course, we'll get into some great steps, some tips, some, things to look out for, and certainly some things to consider so that you can make the best decision for yourself. Because ultimately, again, because this is so broad, it can look like so many different things, and you're talking about a relationship here. You just have to take the information we're giving you, figuring out what works best and how you can apply this to your situation so it works out for you.
Yep. And so not contributing their fair share to household chores and responsibilities. This could include, but not limited to, their dishes, helping with laundry,
Yeah.
not picking up after themselves, not contributing to meals, not helping out with the children, bedtime chores, or what have you.
Or even, yeah. Or, yeah, household stuff.
Right.
I was even taking care of pets or like, stuff like that.
Taking out the trash, cutting the grass.
Yeah, yard works. Yep, all of that. So that's the easy given of what that could mean, but also not being emotionally supportive of your spouse. Some people don't think about this, but that is certainly including things like not being there to listen to your spouse when they need you, when they want to vent, when they want to talk, or not being able to offer your help or your advice, or just not being affectionate or supportive, even, really congratulating your spouse, affirming them in ways like that. That is always a great thing within a relationship. And that's certainly something that both spouses should be contributing. And if you're not, well, hey, you could be not doing your fair share of being emotionally supportive to your spouse.
Yeah, but another way in which this looks as if you're not pulling your weight is not being financially responsible. So this could include things like not paying bills on time, overspending, or not contributing to the household income, especially when you all have set up expectations and barriers and understand your role in the relationship, whether you are the sole financial provider or you're going to do this 50-50 thing or two-thirds or what have you.
Right.
So if you're not pulling your fair share in the relationship, and those expectations are not met financially, it will look like you're not pulling your weight in the relationship.
Yeah, and it will certainly show in your lifestyle, right? How you're living your life. If your bills aren't paid on time, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if y'all not being, smart with your money, that's a two-person thing, especially when you're talking about a relationship. But also not being physically present. That's another way of not putting in your weight if you're not there contributing to, like, with the kids, or being there to spend emotional romantic time with your spouse, or even like family events and stuff like that. If you're not physically present for those things, if it's become a habitual habit where you're always saying I gotta work, or I'm just not able to be there, while we certainly know it is very plausible that you may have to work and have some things to, attend to, but it's certainly also not an excuse to be there for those important moments, or at least when you say you're going to show up physically for something that's going on, whether that's for your spouse or your family in general.
Yep. Not being respectful of your spouse's feelings and boundaries. Yeah. So there we go. We're talking about boundaries. So this could include things like putting them down, making fun of them, or ignoring their needs and their wants.
Yeah.
That shared time together, like my wife was saying, intimacy.
Yeah.
That's one of them. And also too, like I said, not fulfilling your role in the relationship.
Right. So true. And also one thing that just came to mind, not being honest or trustworthy, right? So if you're not, keeping those promises, or you're lying to your spouse, or you're cheating on them, or doing things that you really shouldn't be doing and lying to them about it, all of that really just shows that you're not putting in your weight to build in that trustworthy, happily solid foundation marriage, because it's really built, or relationship in general, because it's really based on that trust and that honesty, and just knowing that, hey, I can trust you to do what you say you're going to do even when I'm not around. And that's what a person really finds safety and security in, to like, hey, this person is who they say they are, and really I can want to build my life with them, because I can kind of expect them to act a certain way, handle things accordingly.
Yep. Another example of not pulling your weight is not being willing to compromise or work on a relationship. Let me say that again, not being willing to compromise or work on the relationship.
Yeah.
So this could include things like refusing to talk about problems, being unwilling to change your behavior, or giving up on the relationship easily.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing all of that, there is no relationship.
Right. Exactly.
It's a one person ship.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
It's a one ship.
A one ship.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah, it is important to note that it's not a one size fit all when it comes to,
Like a woman, it's not a onesie ship.
Onesie ship, you're silly. But you certainly have to know what is considered unacceptable behavior and acceptable behavior within your relationship. So that's going to have to really kind of be talked about in the beginning. Expectations, what you will do, what you won't do, what you expect, what is your spouse's fair share that you want them to contribute. Also, that is aware, and that way that behavior of unacceptable behavior, in a way I should say, isn't going to start causing problems within the relationship, because then that's really just a sign that they need to step up, do their part. And that can look like we went through a bunch of different ways. It's not just the household chores ways or financial ways that usually people expect, but this can look in other different ways too. And that's certainly important to consider. Hey, where could I, even for yourself, even if your relationship is going well, just think, hey, where could be contributing more or better, or, improve. There's nothing wrong with wanting to improve within your life. It's only going to make your relationship and everything else around you better. You messing with the thing. That's cute. All right. So there are a number of reasons why a spouse may end up not pulling their weight, right? So I guess we should talk about that too, because another part of awareness is your spouse's, perspective. They're trying to be understanding here. So we want to put a general idea of, hey, what could be the things that are making my spouse or contributing to my spouse doing this or acting in this way, when, hopefully we talked about things being different than the way they are.
Yep. So number one, different expectations. It is important for couples to have clear and open communication about the expectations for their relationship. Also, to clear boundaries as well, because what happens if you don't set your expectations and your boundaries, you all are setting up failures. You're setting up a system to fail in the relationship because you all are going to be doing things that frustrate each other and you do not know why. And and to be honest with you, this is both of you all fault. One, for not setting up expectations, and then two, for the other person being an annoyance in the relationship. So this includes things like how household chores will be divided up, how finances will be managed, and how much time they will spend together. So if couples have different expectations and do not communicate them, it can lead to resentment and conflict and competition within the relationship. It is always going to end up this way. Resentment, conflict, competition. You all are going to be competing against each other to see who is the flyest in the room, who has the most text messages from friends, and maybe on social media, who has the most likes. It is going to happen, unfortunately, in this day and age. And someone's feelings are going to get hurt because you all are not openly communicating in the beginning, before marriage, about what your expectations and what your barriers are. Do not be afraid to have these conversations. You'll weed out these problems early.
Yeah, I think that's important to think about too, because marriage is about being proactive, right? You don't just wait and be reactive. That's not a way to have a relationship. It's really not a way to do anything. You want to be proactive in it. So,
well, if you think about it, people normally get married in a reactive type of way. The man, says, "Oh, I love this woman, so I want to get married to her," not knowing, one, if she's fitting into his life, or what have you. He just knows, I just need to keep this woman. I need to have her because he's in his feelings. Very reactive. When you make an emotional decision, it's very reactive. It's not calculated at all. It's not very logical. It's not very, it's not very smart, for lack of words. You making decisions out of your emotions will often at times get you in trouble, So be mindful of setting your boundaries, and then also to setting your expectations early in a relationship. Talk about these expectations on the second or third date. What does marriage life look like to you and the role that you play in that relationship? What role are you going to play in my life as far as this marriage? And this is what I expect to do for you in marriage.
Be ready for that.
Right.
That's another part of not, or being that spontaneous way when you're not ready,
Right. And don't shy away from these type of questions and conversations when you're dating. It's very important to do this so you can weed the people that are not right for you early in the relationships. And then also you yourself don't have lofty goals, lofty expectations, unrealistic expectations about marriage at all. You just can't be selfish in the marriage and have one person serve you. It doesn't work that way, because you're going to have resentment, conflict, and competition if you go into the mindset in marriage that you're marrying someone who is just going to bow down and serve you.
Right. Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
Another way, kind of lost train of thought there, but
I got that type of effect on you.
You do. Some people may also fall into unconscious patterns of behavior in their relationship. So this will certainly make it, very likely that they're not going to be pulling their weight, because unconsciously they're, not the one usually doing something, or not the one, for example, even something like taking charge. If they're not usually the one taking charge, they won't, step up and take charge. So that's certainly something to be mindful of within the dynamics of your relationship. Are you allowing your man to take charge and make decisions, or are you just quick to do those instead for them? That's one certain way of how we often hear, when it comes to finances, or the man not, when they get in the competition aspect of a relationship, so a man and a woman may start competing with who can make the most money. And then it's always the woman may make decisions or the man may make decisions. And it gets in that competition idea. And it's really to talk about, who's going to be the final say within the relationship that, is going to give it that kind of that, when there's a tie, what is that called? I'm tired.
A draw, or either a tie. Or stalemate.
Yeah, but when you're the decision maker of that, what's that called? Is there a particular name for that?
A draw?
No, when you're making the decision to break the the
Tiebreaker.
tiebreaker. Yeah, for lack. Yeah, that's the word.
That's what it's
That's
called.
the exact word. Yep.
Right.
Thank you.
You're
It's late, y'all. That's what happens when you do these late at night. But yeah, it's like a tiebreaker. So somebody the default tiebreaker, and that's certainly healthy. It really makes things a lot better, especially if this person is the most logical one. If they're gonna make the one that makes the best decisions in that leadership role. If they're confident in that, if it comes natural, certainly the best way to do. Also, though, if you're talking about things like maybe household chores, so one spouse is always the one taking out the trash and the other one may not do that, or like washing dishes and the other one may not do that, or cooking, especially if you guys both work and you have kids, or who's taking the kids to the doctors and stuff like that. All of that has to be considered as, hey, if this is going to be my task, sometimes, maybe you may need to pitch in with this task, or maybe we need to alternate and split up sometimes, or work it around whoever has that most free time. It's really about being flexible and compromising, because it's going to change, especially when you add in different life experiences coming your way, or different children that you add in, or maybe parents that you add in, other household family members. It's so many different factors of life that you really just have to be open and flexible to, hey, things are going to sometimes need some adjustment, and we got to be okay with that.
Oh. And then also two major life changes.
Yeah.
Major life changes. So such as having children or starting a new job or career can put a strain on a relationship. Yeah. So if couples are not able to adjust to these changes effectively, it can lead to one spouse feeling overwhelmed and resentful.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, mental health issues. This is always one big one that pops in my mind when it comes to, hey, is my spouse, picking up their slack or paying their part? Is this something that they used to always do that all of a sudden they stop doing? Maybe depression is playing a part, maybe stress, maybe anxiety, maybe physical health issues, something that's impacting their mind. You never really know what your spouse is going through. Sometimes even within a relationship, mental health can really be a silent battle that a person is fighting within their own mind. Even their closest person near them may not, be able to understand what they're going through. So it's always important that you're being understanding to seeing, hey, is there something here that I need to be aware of that, maybe within your mind, maybe you need some help, maybe we need some help, especially if it's a mental health issue that your spouse is really struggling with. Certainly help them get third-party help, bringing in a counselor, a therapist to really help work through that situation, because sometimes it's real. Sometimes they can't help it, especially if it's something like deep, dark depression, It can be crippling. I've heard people being bedridden, like you just can't get out of bed through that. And that's a very real thing. So, want to be mindful.
And next, it is also important to note that there is no excuse for not pulling your weight in a relationship.
Yeah.
You both agreed to be together. So you should, basically live out your expectation and what you were supposed to do in the relationship, and vice versa. However, if you are struggling to do your part, it is important to talk to somebody. Talk to your spouse about it, of course. They may be able to offer support and help you to identify ways to improve. But understand that all of this advice is no good to you if you don't use it. So if you just keep talking about your problems and then you're just looking for validation, then what good is that? You have to actually put a plan into action.
Yeah.
So,
talking about it, being direct with them. That's the main way to do that with your spouse. Who's going to take your spouse, you and your spouse, coming together and having that honest conversation, whether you're the one slacking or they're the one slacking.
Yeah. So you have to be honest and direct about your concerns. Be specific. Don't just say you're not pulling your weight. Instead, give them examples of these things that are bothering you. You don't have to timestamp everything and say at 10:23 yesterday morning you did this and you should not have done that. So for example, you can say, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm the only one who ever cleans the kitchen. If that is true, try to avoid generalizations. But bring realistic examples. Say that I clean the bathroom more often than not, or may you please help out. Say things like that. I would rather you all say that. So, ask for help. I know a lot of people don't like to ask for help, which is that themselves, that comes from trauma as well. It is perfectly fine to ask. questions and ask for help. Perfectly fine.
Yeah, because you overwhelm yourself naturally if you
Right. Yeah.
don't.
You're frustrating yourself because
Mhm.
you yourself don't know how to let go of trauma and then be vulnerable and just ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So you also want to avoid blaming.
Yeah.
So this is so that you can have conversations about working together to solve problems. So not trying to start arguments or conflicts because you approach the conversation like a chance to blame your spouse for everything that's wrong with the relationship, everything that's wrong with you, your
Yeah.
family, your mama, your daddy, your brother, your sister, all of
Right.
them. So your grandma, your granddad. So that's not what you are here for. That's why you do not compete in conversations and argue in your relationship. You don't,
Yeah.
those situations should be a time for understanding and negotiating and compromising, not for trying to win an argument. When you get in that position, your relationship is on code red. Code red when you start having competitions within your relationship because all you're worried about is trying to win a conversation until the point where somebody just gives up. And at that time, your relationship is pretty much on cardiac arrest, on life support.
Yeah.
So as long one person thinks that they're still in a relationship, that thing is, it's on a defibrillator. So you need to get some help. You need to bring the doctors, the surgeons in the room, or someone who can help you put this relationship back together.
Yeah. Desperately. Certainly if you let it get too far like that. Yep. But also, of course, to have this conversation, you have to be willing to hear your spouse's side of things. So certainly be understanding, be respectful, let them talk, let them get out, what they're going through. Because again, like I just mentioned, it could be something serious. So you certainly want to consider that. And then that's going to help you guys come together to actually make that plan that you were talking about. Because you have to have that plan together, especially even write it down if it's something like, hey, we need to do chores at this way, put out a calendar or split up like how you argue with kids, like who's going to take the kids certain places. I don't know, your schedule. Just have a calendar like in a general spot where everybody can see it. And hey, you're not taking, I guess, don't go down the route of saying, oh, everybody got to do dishes this time, tally of who did this, who did that, per se. You don't want to compete that way, but just giving it a general reference of, hey, these are some chores that need to be done. These are, how anybody can pitch in. Take what you can pitch in with and let's, do it together in a way. So really just try to play it as a team, working together, trying to go towards a goal, not,
Right. I would say this, that if you both can't figure out that damn schedule, then y'all both need to do the chores together. Just do all of it together. Y'all can talk and build your relationship, build intimacy.
You need it, at that
joke,
point,
just do it all together.
That's a good point. I mean, especially if it's even like if you're both working, cooking dinner together,
right?
Cleaning together.
Right. That's therapy. That's therapy. So even if it's sweeping the floor, both of y'all hold that broom together and sweep together, or buy two brooms or something. I don't know.
Yeah, especially if your relationship is really on the rocks of like, y'all just not working together. Yeah, we always recommend that. If you're not working together as a team, y'all need to do some team activities.
Right, exactly.
Do some things together. So
achieve some goals together. What goals are you all achieving together, other than trying to win arguments against each other? That's not a goal at all.
Right. And it's not fun either. It's really not fun. You miss out on being able to enjoy your life with somebody. That means enjoying them. You want to spend most of your time happy, being able to resolve and work together so that then when you're faced with problems, you can easily teamwork them and work through the problem, not, attack each other. You can utilize each other and you're both different assets that you offer and how it could work to the advantage of the team. So, yeah. I think that is pretty much everything. But of course, we do have to talk. If a spouse is not still willing to pull their weight in the relationship, it's very logical to happen. You have this conversation and they're just like, I'm going to do it. And then they don't do it, right? We got to address that because that may be, where you're at. And of course, you can't force your spouse to do anything. So you always say, like, you can't make them change. You can only inspire change. So you certainly can't force them and nag them to life about, doing something or improving something. But there are some things that, you can maybe do to improve the situation a little bit, or at least certainly help you consider, what's the next best things in this space, choice if my spouse just ain't doing it.
Right. So you may need to start setting some boundaries, of course,
Yeah.
as well. So, for example, you could decide that you will no longer do all of the housework and childcare, or you could decide that you will no longer work overtime if it means that your spouse doesn't have to help out around the house. So don't be afraid to ask for help, like I said before. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to ask before you're feeling overwhelmed. So ask your spouse for help with specific tasks. For example, you can say, "Can you please help me with these dishes tonight or taking out the trash?"
Yeah. Or outsource. I always think about that. If you get into the point of your relationship, we talked about this probably of the very beginning. I think one of the first questions we got was kind of something like this, and that was a great suggestion, is to outsource, because especially if you are
If you can
in
afford it.
if you can afford it, if you're in and even if outsourcing to like family or something like that. But if you're in a serious bind within your relationship and y'all know like it's just a tough spot for y'all trying to work through it, and you're in particular overwhelmed and your spouse just is not helping, it's important then to kind of help yourself by outsourcing in some way, asking for help in some way, reaching out for some way of being able to relieve yourself, so that then you can, take care of yourself, get yourself back into a better space to be able to have productive conversations with your spouse. Because you're certainly not going to have productive conversations with them if you're overwhelmed. They're not picking up the slack, and they're not even listening to you. That's only going to make you madder, bring emotions and all this other stuff in it. So at that point, you really have to take things into your own hands and figure out, okay, how can I reduce my own stress so that then I can then focus on working through the problem, because it's just not going to work any other way. You just can't solve a problem within the problem. You kind of got to always rise above the problem. Certainly making yourself feel better is one way to vibrationally rise above the problem, and then you're more likely to work through and find a solution. But yeah.
Yeah. And then also too, if you are unable to resolve the issues on your own, feeling overwhelmed, or if you're having trouble communicating with your spouse about this issue, you may want to consider bringing in a third party to help. You need to.
Yeah.
So you can schedule a consultant with a married couple like us.
Mm-hmm.
Or you may want to consider couples counseling from a
Yeah.
therapist or counselor, preferably a male, a man who's married, happily married. So just to be sure to vet your third party counselor or
Yeah.
consultant.
Yeah. And consider therapy for yourself first. That's a part of that whole self-care, taking care of yourself. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're exercising. Making sure your hormones, your vitamins, all that stuff is good. But also mentally, make sure if you need a therapist, talk to a therapist too. Don't be afraid to do that. And then also certainly look for couples therapy if you can't talk about it with your spouse. But in general, a therapist will, or even like we are also available for consultations to be able to help you sit down and think about, hey, what are some ways we can problem solve, bring this solution to our spouse so that we can work through, or maybe, consider other options. Once you can really get personal with the situation, you can really see what are the best options within the scenario, what's more likely to play out, not just focus so much on the problems, but where these problems are going to lead to, what are the end results of what's going on, and figuring out how you either can fix it or, possibly not, but that's certainly better to have after you've gone through couples therapy, especially if you're married. If you're in a regular relationship, not married, we always still do premarital therapy. That's a great thing to still do even if you aren't married, and especially before you get married, so that you're able to just have that third party interaction and guidance and consultants while you figure things out before you make such a big leap like that. But
yeah, premarital counseling is perfect for people now in these times, because we don't know what normal relationships are supposed to look like.
yeah.
Be honest with you, are both of your parents married? Did they go through a divorce? Those were not, those divorced parents were not a normal relationship, contrary to what today's people may believe.
Yeah.
That either the statistics show that either you came from a happily, well, not even happily, parents that were married, or either divorced, a single family. So we often at times we really don't know what normal healthy relationships are supposed to look like, and we carry relationships as if this person is supposed to do something for me all the time.
Yeah.
So that is the importance of having premarital counseling first, so that you can understand and see what that's supposed to look like, what those boundaries are supposed to look like, and what realistic expectations are.
Yeah. And how to communicate. That's one way. Communication, ways of talking about things in a more productive manner. Communication is always about getting whoever you're communicating to receive what you're saying. That's often forgot when people speak. They just say, it's like word vomit. You don't really care about how that person is going to receive what you want to say, but that's important because your whole goal is for them to get the message. And if they don't get the message, then you're not going to be able to move on to the next thing, and certainly you can't problem solve or anything like that. So yeah, it's important to think about that.
Yeah, most definitely. So with that being said, if you are also looking for an avenue to, I guess, put your question out there anonymously, you can also go to our www.wifeconomics.com/submit a question as well, so we can maybe one day talk about your topic. So this is a free call-in show, live call-in shows Monday through Friday. You can video chat with us, drop comments, questions, concerns, problems, and we will try to navigate through that with you to find and formulate a solution. And we have done so before, especially to those new viewers out there. Don't hesitate. If you all have any questions during our show, please leave those comments there in the comment box, or either you can chime in the video, talk with us, and interact as well.
Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah, thank
you. Monday night YouTube. Oh, look, I think that's YouTube. Is that Facebook? YouTube, yeah, YouTube and Instagram. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, got a full house on Instagram, as always. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because we've been having a lot of viewers, and we're finally over 7,000 Instagram subscribers, and we're well over 400 YouTube subscribers as well. So if you all can please like, share, subscribe our videos on both platforms, we would really appreciate it. Also Facebook as well.
Yeah, as we grow, we're going to be growing and we're brand new to this. So we still learning and doing different things. So I'm excited to do this journey with you all. And yeah.
Yep. And this show is not about us. We're doing this for the community.
Yeah.
Doing this for you all as a sounding board for some people who actually don't have anyone to, talk to and trying to voice their concerns, their issues with in a healthy manner. Yeah. Hopefully that we can shed light and provide a solution to whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
So this isn't about this isn't a show where you're going to be judged or picked on or whatever the case may be. This is a place of solving problems, resolutions, and finding answers.
Yeah, constructive, solutions. Certainly.
Criticism and feedback, constructive. Yeah. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Real quick, anybody? I know you got something to say out there. Y'all are watching, and you got something that you really want to say. If not, like I said, you can drop us a DM message, or either go to our my wife course website, www.wifeconomics.com. There she also has a lot of information, especially for those young women out there who don't know what it takes to be a wife. Yeah. She's laid out the whole blueprint of what it is and what it takes to be a wife in this modern age. Yeah. So we're not trying to build
be a divine wife.
Right.
I must say that. Divine.
Right. We're not trying to build modern women. We're trying to build divine wives.
Yeah.
In the original essence of what a wife really is.
Who wants to answer God's calling, just like we're answering God's calling to do this. The women who hear God's calling to be a wife, a divine wife. If you want to really tap into that, this is certainly the place to be, and wifeconomics.com is a great resource for that.
Yeah. So I guess that's it. So with that being said, Blueprint family, we thank you all for joining us tonight, and a wonderful week as well. Peace.